When you're a child, a rainstorm can feel much bigger than it really is. On that day, the rain felt endless, and I felt smaller than ever. I must have been 9 years old, or maybe 10. The sky stayed dark from afternoon, and heavy clouds blocked the sun for the entire day. I came back from school and came home. Inside, the house felt cold and damp. My parents had left early that morning, so I was all alone. They'd gone out of the city to manage an exhibition and planned to return late at night. My mom had prepared pasta for the lunch. It was my favorite dish. They called me on the old landline phone. I could hear worry in their voices. They told me that the roads were unsafe for travel due to heavy rain. They told me they were stuck in a motel and wouldn't be back until the storm passed. My mother's voice came through like a soft hug. She told me to stay calm and promised she'd come home as soon as she could. My father asked his sister to come watch me, but she said a big tree branch had fallen on her car. My mother stayed on the line for over an hour, telling me stories about when I was little. She made me laugh, and bit by bit I felt a little braver.
Yes, parents have a superpower of doing this.
Before she hung up, my mother reminded me to lock the front door, close the windows, and pull the curtains. After the call ended, the house felt very quiet. The rain still beat on the roof, but inside it was oddly still. At night, I grabbed some candy and snacks from the kitchen and sat on the couch in the living room. To keep my mind busy, I pulled out my handheld water game, the one with tiny rings floating in water, and tried to land the rings on the pegs. The game made soft beeps when I succeeded. I munched on candy, my fingers sticky, and stared at the clock ticking. I don't know how long I played before I drifted off. My water game slipped from my hand and on the floor. I woke only when a huge clap of thunder shook the house, and a bright flash of lightning lit up the room. It was almost 2 in the night. For a brief moment, the lightning also lit up the door to a room right in front of me. I was sure it was closed the entire day. Startled, I sat up and remembered my mother's last words. I hurried to the curtains, pulled them aside just enough to check the door, then closed them again. I did every step, though my hands were shaking due to the sound of thunderstorm. I pushed the bolt, checked each window latch, and tugged the curtains until the living room was dark. And then I lit up one light of the living room.
I think someone was already inside when you locked the house.
I did not think about that at that time. I was only a kid. Back on the couch, I wrapped my arms around my knees. The rain was still loud, but this time something else joined it. A soft creak from upstairs. At first, I thought it was the wind or the house settling. Then I heard it again, heavy, slow steps on the stairs. My chest tightened. I wanted to run upstairs to see, but I couldn't move. At first I turned toward the other room, but then I remembered that I had seen it unlocked just now, so instead, I bolted toward the kitchen and squeezed into the cabinet under the sink. The wooden door slammed behind me, and I sat in the dark with my heart hammering. Inside that small space, it smelled like soap and old pots. My knees pressed against my chest, and my hands felt cleaning bottles and sponges. The space was too tight, and even a little movement could have opened the cabinet door. I had to keep myself completely still. There was only a thin line of light slipped in under the cabinet door. Above me I heard slow steps on the wooden floor, then the creak of stairs as someone came down. I closed my eyes and held my breath, listening as the steps moved closer to the kitchen. I peeked under the door and saw a pair of boots covered in thick, wet mud. They looked heavy and old. The person moved toward the front door. I couldn't see their face, just the dirty shoes as they walked away. Suddenly the phone rang, loud and sharp in the house. I heard the footsteps stopped, and I held so still I thought I might burst. After several rings from the phone, I heard the front door open and close. The muddy boots walked out of the house, I thought. I stayed in that cabinet, frozen, The phone must have rang for quite a few times, but I could not get the courage to walk out of the cabinet. The storm slowly began to quiet. When the rain turned from a roar to soft pats on the roof, I crept out and looked around. Morning light peeked under the curtains. I pushed the cabinet door open and stepped into the living room. The carpet was streaked with muddy footprints from the staircase toward the door before ending. No one stood there now, just those wet tracks. I ran back to the front door and locked it again, my hands shaking. I sat down on the floor, pressing my back to the cool wood, and waited. After a couple of hours, I heard a car pull up outside. My parents were home. My mother rushed in alarmed and found me curled on the floor. She dropped her bags, scooped me into her arms, and hugged me tight. I told her about the rain, the steps, and the muddy boots. My father knelt by the prints on the floor. He touched the dried mud and frowned. He checked every lock and window. Then he went upstairs to look in all the rooms and closets. He called out to see if anyone was hiding but found no one. After that night, my parents never left me alone at home again. If they had to go out, they took me with them or asked a friend to stay. I didn't tell anyone else about that night for years, but the memory stayed with me. It was my childhood trauma. Even now, I check the locks twice, maybe 3 times, and I remember how it felt to be a child, alone in a storm. It started with a knock during the worst storm of the year. But what followed wasn't human. I was 28 when I moved into my first apartment on the edge of the city. It was an older building, but perfect for me. Quiet, secluded, and the rent was affordable. A far cry from the chaotic roommate situations I'd been in before. For 2 months, everything was peaceful. I would get home from work, feed my dog Max, and then relax on the couch, listening to the sounds of the city fading into the background. The rain was soothing, pouring down in a soft, rhythmic pattern. It felt like it would never stop, and I liked it that way. It started one night in the middle of a relentless rainstorm. The heavy downpour made the air thick and damp. It was around 9 p.m., and I had just finished dinner. Max had been acting strange, pacing near the door, looking out the window. I didn't think much of it at first. He was a nervous dog, always barking at shadows or anything that moved outside in the rain. But then, he started whimpering. It was unlike him. I called him over, but he just stood there, staring at the window with wide eyes. I got up and went to check on him, thinking he might have seen a squirrel or another dog outside. But when I looked out, I saw nothing but the rain pounding down, blurring everything beyond the window. I brushed it off and went back to the couch. Max followed me, but he didn't settle down. He kept walking in circles, his paws clicking against the hardwood floor, his eyes darting nervously. The rain outside was deafening, but Max seemed to hear something beyond it. Around 10 p.m., I heard 3 knocks. Not soft, loud, like someone was pounding with their elbow.
Who knocked during a rainstorm?
I wasn't expecting anyone, but maybe it was a delivery or a neighbor. I opened the peephole, but no one was there. I checked the hallway, but it was empty. No footsteps. No signs of life. Just the sound of the rain, falling heavily on the pavement outside. I closed the door and locked it, trying to shake the growing unease in my chest. But then, the doorbell rang again. It wasn't just a simple ring. I stepped back from the door and looked at Max. He was standing still, staring at the window again. His ears were flattened against his head, his eyes wide with fear. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I slowly walked to the window, my heart racing in my chest. And then I saw him. A figure, standing in the pouring rain just outside the window. He was facing away from me, but I could see the outline of his coat flapping in the wind. His head tilted slightly as though he was listening, his figure standing still while the storm raged around him. I froze. I had no idea who he was, and the idea that someone was outside my window at this time, in the storm, with no reason to be there. sent a chill through me. I backed away from the window, my breath quick and shallow. Max was still on edge, pacing back and forth, his low growl vibrating through the apartment. I waited. It was raining continuously and harder, as though the storm itself was intensifying with every second. The man didn't move. He was just standing there, his back toward my apartment. I thought maybe he was waiting, but there was no building or anything in the way he was looking. And then, finally, after what felt like an eternity, he turned and looked toward my apartment for a few seconds and walked away. It was as if the storm was still around, but he moved through it like it wasn't even there. I went to sleep later that night. Max stayed close to me. The next day, I called the landlord. I wanted to know if anyone else had seen the man, but he assured me the building was secure. No strange reports, no weird behavior from neighbors. For the next few days, it didn't rain. Then a few nights later, the storm returned. The same deafening downpour. I got back home, and usually Max would come out when he hears me home, but that day he did not. I called him, but no response. I looked everywhere in my apartment, but he had vanished. Right when I was looking for him, the knock came again. Same loud knock, as if someone was pounding with their elbow, followed by the doorbell. I froze. I didn't want to open the door, but I couldn't just ignore it. I looked through the peephole, but there was nothing. I was furious and decided to run toward the gate and see if someone was close by. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Max right outside the door.
How'd he go out with the door locked?
I didn't understand that either, and he couldn't have knocked with his elbow, and the doorbell was on a height, and there is no way Max could have reached it. And another question is, how would he ring it? Max was literally soaking wet, like he'd been dragged through water. I picked him, hugged while he was shivering. I fed him and gave him a warm towel. He slept right after eating. The next day, he woke me up early, and I froze when I noticed there was a locket he was now wearing. Shiny, silver, clamped around his collar. I'd never seen it before. I opened the locket, and there was a folded paper inside. I unfolded the paper, and there was this handwritten note saying, "Dogs can't ring doorbells." It sent shiver down my spine. Someone had taken my dog and then returned. I immediately called the landlord and insisted that he check the security cameras. He checked and found the footage of this guy standing there for almost an hour, but he did not do anything. He just stood there and never entered the apartment. I was asking myself then who rang my apartment's bell. Their face was never visible on screen due to heavy rain and their hood. I was 15 and didn't like babysitting my little brother Max. He was 7, hyper, and addicted to dinosaur facts. But my parents promised $20 and full control of the TV. So I said yes. By 10:30 p.m. the house was quiet. Max was fast asleep in his T-Rex pajamas, snoring into his pillow. I lay on the couch in a hoodie, scrolling through TikTok. There was only the TV's glow and the soft hum of the fridge. And then,
Wait, what was that?
it was quiet, but distinct. Like a key turning. I froze and muted my phone. Another sound. A soft rattle at the front door. I crept into the hallway, my socks silent against the hardwood. The house was dim. Just the keypad above the door glowing red. I checked the peephole. Nothing. No one was outside. But the sound was real.
You don't imagine metal turning?
I turned to the garage door keypad. The one they'd installed last year. The screen glowed in the dark. 3 attempts remaining. My heart stopped. Someone was trying to guess the garage code. Beep, beep. Incorrect. I grabbed my phone and texted my mom. "Are you home?" No reply. I thought, who knew the code? Mom. Dad. Her best friend Lucy, who had just posted a concert video, and Uncle Travis. Travis had just moved back to town. I didn't like him. He stared too long. Talked too slick. At Thanksgiving, he'd cornered me in the kitchen. Said, "You've really grown up." His hand had rested on my shoulder just a second too long. I never told my parents about him. 2 attempts remaining. I didn't want to look again, but I did. I peered through the peephole, and there he was, hood up, standing at the door. Uncle Travis. He smiled straight into the lens.
Oh my God, he knows she's watching.
Sweetie. He called through the door, too casual. Your mom said you needed help. I said nothing. I couldn't move. He leaned in like he could see through the peephole. 1 attempt's remaining. I backed away, shaking. The lock disengaged. I ran up the stairs, into my bedroom.
No, he got in.
I locked the door behind, grabbed Max from his bed, and shook him awake. Get under the bed, I whispered urgently. He obeyed. I dialed 911, whispering fast. There's someone in my house, my uncle. He broke in. Please, stay on the line, said the dispatcher. Officers are en route. Can you hide? I tucked Max beneath blankets under the bed, then slid into the closet. I heard footsteps on the stairs. He called my name, sing-song. Come on, sweetheart. I saw your post. Home alone, right? Just you and Max. I held my breath as the footsteps creaked down the hallway, closer. Then, right outside the bedroom, I could hear him breathing through the door. Slow, steady, calculated. Like he was enjoying it. The doorknob rattled. Once, then again. Gently, as if he was testing it. I pressed myself into the corner, behind a hanging coat in the laundry hamper. I found a stick laying in a corner of the closet and my hands were trembling. My phone, still connected to 911, was clutched tight against my chest. Is the door locked? The dispatcher whispered in my ear. I nodded, then whispered back, yes. Outside the room, a soft thud. His forehead, maybe, resting against the door. Listening, he called my name again. His voice was smooth and coaxing. Come on, sweetie, it's Uncle Travis. Everything's fine. I know you're in there. I didn't answer. His tone sharpened. Too calm, too familiar. Silence stretched long and cold. He tried the handle hard. Still locked. I could barely hear over the pounding of my heart. The breathing on the other side of the door grew heavier. I just want to talk, sweetie. Your mom sent me over. His voice was soft now, like he was negotiating. You've got me all wrong. I'm your uncle, remember? No response. Then, a sudden bang. The whole door shuttered it. He'd kicked it once. Then again. Open the door. He barked. I bit my lip to stop from screaming, tears rolling down my cheeks. Then, another sound, distant but rising. Sirens. Travis heard them too. His voice changed. God damn it! He growled and stepped away. His footsteps faded. Fast! Down the stairs. Out of the house.
He left.
I stayed frozen in that closet, still gripping the stick tight. I didn't come out until red and blue lights flashed through the window, and the dispatcher finally said the words I had been waiting for. The officers are outside. You're safe now. When they found me, I was still shaking. Mac, still under the bed, whispered one thing. Did the dinosaur man go away? Travis was face down on the driveway, zip-tied, still smiling. It was just a misunderstanding, he said. I was checking on them. In his car, they found zip ties and duct tape.
That wasn't random. That was planned.
Later, my dad admitted that he gave Travis the garage code a month ago for some reasons. When the police checked the smart lock log, something was off. Travis had the right code, but it took him 9 tries to get in. The footage shows he was just nervous, typing too fast, tapping the last digit twice, or brushing the pad too lightly. A tech later said these locks can glitch if you rush. He was probably panicking. Didn't even realize he was messing it up. I took self-defense classes later, so I do not get afraid if something like this happens in the future.